Okay, so if you had fun playing with Legos, you're going to have a lot of fun in Cinema 4D. So, obviously, to get into Cinema 4D, you have to open up After Effects. You're going to go create a new Maxon Cinema 4D file. You're going to call it whatever. And boom, here you are in Cinema 4D. Okay, so the first fundamental rule to building in a 3D program is that we use blocks or cubes to model almost everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the controls that you need to be familiar with here, and then we'll start building a floor and some walls and doors and windows, etc., just to kind of give you a sense of how to build a room. But uh, the let me go ahead and drop a cube in here. So this, you can see this button right here. It says cube, add cube object. If I click and hold, it gives me a whole option of things that I can add. Disc, torus, pyramid, relief, cube, etc. Figures, that's how we get our people on there. Landscapes, tubes, you know, everything's basically in here. But I just want to add a cube, so you can see here it is. Now these arrows here are axes. This is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and this is the z-axis. So we got up and down, left and right, and forward and back. So you can tell in this perspective here, you can see the perspective window, I am off to the right at an angle. And I'm going to change that. I'm going to center click and hold down Option or Alt on a PC. And I'm going to move this to the center. And then I'm going to left click and rotate around. So we have just a little bit better angle. So now you can see we're left and right, up and down in Z. So if I were to grab these arrows, I can go move the cube left and right. I can move it up and down. And I can move it forward and back. Okay, and this is called what's called a transform gizmo. And there are three of them. There is this one, which is move, scale, and rotate. In scale, now I can individually, well actually it's locked. So that's one of the things I want to show you is right now I'm in model mode. I have to be in object mode. And then this has to be unchecked. And now I can scale independently. So now I can scale in the y-axis, I can scale in the x-axis, and I can scale in the z-axis, which is depth. And so you can also see, if I were to zoom out, this is the right view, the front view, and the top view. So the front view, I can't even see my my cube. I don't even know where it is. I'm zooming in, and I have no idea. Front. If I move away, like if I go to left and then back to front, it should reset. Yeah, there it is. Now I can see my cube. And I'm going to center click again to get out of this, and now I can see all four views. So now I've got a perspective view, top view, front view, and a right view. And of course I can change these to anything. I can change the top view to perspective, or I could change it to left, right, front, back, top, or bottom. Those are your options right here. Or perspective. Perspective and camera, you need to be able to see through your camera, you need to be in perspective mode. And then of course there's no cameras right now. So there's the default camera, which is just the computer's internal camera, which is showing us this perspective over here. Okay, so I've built the cube, and everything's usually built out of. Oh, let me finish going through the axes. So we've got the scale gizmo, and then rotation. And in rotation, now all this changes to pitch, yaw, and roll. So obviously this would be your pitch, this would be your yaw, and this would be your roll. And that's the basics. Other than that, you don't really need to know a lot about this program. There's a lot that you can figure out from different tutorials, but I'm going to be really quick going through these. I'm just going to really quick show you how to build a quick room. So I'm going to delete that object, and I'm going to start over. I'm going to add a cube. And so I want to thin this cube out. So I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to squeeze it down. As you can see, as I'm squeezing this cube down, the numbers over here change. Now right now we're set to centimeters. It doesn't really matter what you're in, like your measurement, because when you bring your figures in, your figures are going to be, let's say, an average of 5, 8, 5, 10, let's call it, and then of course you can scale them up or down. And so as long as you know that, let's say just call it 6 feet. And then if you're in Europe, obviously you're going to be working in meters. Call it 2 meters. And your ceiling, your standard average ceiling is about 3 meters or 9 feet. So then you figure just by looking at the scale of your human, you can measure how high the ceiling is and you can build your rooms from there. But here it says centimeters, but it doesn't really matter what the measurement is. Everything scales up and down evenly. So I'm going to squeeze this down. I'm going to stretch it up. You can see it stretches up above and below the ground plane. And then I'm going to stretch it out, and this is going to be a wall. You could also use your grid to measure whatever units you're measuring. If it's in centimeters, obviously it may not translate to feet as well for you, but you get a general sense for how I guess proportionate your objects are. Okay, and then I'm going to raise this up so that it is even with the ground plane. You can see I put that right on the ground plane there. I'm going to create a floor. And just click this object here, it creates a floor. I'm going to scale it up, scale it out this way, and oops. And then also in Z. There's my floor. And this is my wall. So now I'm going to drag my wall, let's see, to the edge of my floor here. And I'm going to rotate around so I can see. So here's our wall. I'm going to zoom out a little and adjust it. So now that you've got one wall built, building the rest is really simple because you can just copy and drag essentially. So I'm going to grab this Z-axis gizmo here. I'm going to hold down Command, which I think is Control on a PC, and I'm just going to drag it. And it makes a copy of the wall. You want to make sure you're holding down, you let go of the wall before you let go of the Command key or the Control key. Otherwise, you just move the wall instead of copied it. So I'm going to let go. Now I've got a wall that's copied. I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to move it to the center. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. You can see I got a little heads-up display that shows me exactly how far. And also, if you look down at the bottom, you can see that the rotation on the H axis tells you exactly how far. And so if I want it perfectly 90 degrees, I'm just going to double-click in here and type 90 and hit Enter. Okay, I'm going to go to my top view. And I'm going to drag this. Oops. That looks like I'm going to drag it this way. And to duplicate that, I'm going to grab the Z-axis. Oh, I'll just do it here, I guess. Hold down Command or Control and drag to duplicate. Now I've got 4 walls. I've got 4 walls and a floor. See, very, very simple. So now making doors and windows is a little more complicated. Oops. So I want to drag that out. Okay, so no room would actually be completely closed off like this. And I want to give myself a little more space, so I'm going to build the room a little bit bigger. I'm going to drag this out. going to scale this up. As you can see, I'm using the top. The top was zoomed out too far before, but now I'm using it to kind of gauge where my walls meet up and make sure that the joints close. And I'm going to delete this wall and copy this one. Okay, so now just for the purposes of scale, I'm going to drop a figure in here and see just how big it is. So let's add a figure. Let's put it up on the ground plane. Move him or her inside the room, and that's a pretty decent sized room. I'm pretty happy with that. And for now, we'll just leave him that way, but eventually, in a minute, I'll show you how to adjust him. But I want to build some doors. So here's where, I mean, I could get into how to cut things out, but it gets really complicated, and it's really not necessary to do that. So I'm going to show you how to sort of a workaround for building doors and windows. And basically, it consists of, let's say I want a window in this wall here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this down to about where a window would be, which would be about, I guess, right above waist level. I'm going to scale this down. There, I guess a window would come to about waist. As you can see, our walls are a little too high. So I'm going to select all of these and scale them down. Okay, so now that I have kind of my base part of the wall, I'm going to duplicate that. And squeeze it down. And now I can create one window, or I can create several windows out of this sort of gap that I've created here. I'm going to create two windows, so I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to shrink it down. And I'm just going to place it. So it's there. Shrink it down a little more. And then I'm just going to duplicate it and duplicate it again. I've got two windows on that side. So now we can use the same technique to build a door. So let's, I'm going to duplicate this. You want to make sure you're in the move gizmo before you control drag or command drag to duplicate. You can see the dimensions of my room are uneven. You can see that I can't use a center line to kind of scale these. So it's a little off, so I kind of futz to find the center line so that when I scale it, it meets up evenly with both ends. Because like I see, I kind of screwed up with this one. In fact, I'm gonna try and find the center on this as well. that one, and this one, and try to scale them down so that they meet up with the edges of the room, just so it doesn't drive me crazy. Okay. Okay, so we have our, we're going to delete that wall. We're going to use our sort of brace piece, or our beam here, to help us create a door. So the door should be about 7 feet high. So if we've called this guy, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet tall. 7 feet should be right there. So let's scale this to 7 feet. That looks about right. And then we're going to duplicate it and create our 2 wall panels out of it. So we'll scale in and up. Doesn't matter if it overlaps. So then we just got to figure out where we're going to put our door. If we're going to put it in the middle of the room or off, and this is where, you know, production designers are a lot of fun, or even if you have a picture or a video of a room that you're planning on shooting in, and you figure out where that door is going to be. In this particular case, I think I'm going to put the door, I'm going to put the door in the middle. I don't really want to, but actually let's put it off to the side. And we'll just duplicate this. That's about the width of a door opening there. So we'll have to lay this in about the center of where we need it to be, and then scale it out to match the door. Okay, I was a little off. Boom, doorway. Okay, now. This panel's way too big. Boom, doorway. Okay, so that's the basic build. Now, if I wanted to put a ceiling on, I could duplicate the floor object. I could select the floor object. Not sure I can. And I can command drag that. Now, the only reason you'd create a floor object rather than just using another box to create a floor and a ceiling is that you can eventually, if you're going to animate, I'm going to delete that because I can't see what I'm doing now. If you were to animate this, you could make the floor interact with the person so that, like, when you animate them, their knees, they don't fall through the floor, they don't pass through the object. But normally, if I'm in a hurry, I'll just create a cube and create a floor out of it, and then a ceiling. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. We'll just add a cube here. We will flatten it out, scale it to size. Let's get it in place so we can get the right size for it. So you can make a floor like that, and then just duplicate it to make a ceiling. And I'm going to turn off the visibility on that ceiling so I can see what I'm doing. So there's the basic build. In the next tutorial, I'll show you how to change the colors in these, and how to adjust this guy, and how to put a camera in here.